You discussed the role of physical fitness in your recovery journey, and I guess particularly as an Ironman athlete. I know you've kind of already answered that. Let's answer that question.
So physical health is a huge one for me, Tim, and I had the sleeping experiment where I used physical health and sleep. I also have in my family high cholesterol typically, and that's something that I grew up with, and with the result of most of the males on my father's side having heart attacks and so on. And that's a bit of a fear that I lived with for many years. And I also played with medication versus exercise to keep my cholesterol in check, and by taking blood test every month. And what I found was that I have two paths. I can go on statins to have it under control, or I can exercise every day. So it really comes down to a choice. Do I prefer to go on medication? And with statins I cannot almost run because I'm cramping and all sort of things. So I can just become slave for the rest of my life to those medications, so I can exercise every day. So I just chose an exercise, and that's really my main driver behind all of this. And then that was the foundation for this. Of course, it's this wonderful life that we explained about, which is where everything is possible. And
to another episode of I Love Being Sober, where we delve into the transformative journeys of individuals who have turned their lives around through sobriety. Today, we're thrilled to have Nick Johnson, a distinguished TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and a beacon of hope for many in the recovery community. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's great to be here.
Yes, and you're in Singapore, right?
Yes, that's right, Tim. I was born in Sweden, educated in Australia, and the last 20 years in Southeast Asia.
Awesome, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about you and your Ironman journey, which I'm also an Ironman. So that was just an amazing journey for me. I only did it for 3 years, and I did a couple of fulls, and I did, I don't know, probably a dozen halves and a bunch of other races. And it's just it was an awesome time for me. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story. So tell me a little bit about what it was like and what happened.
Tim, so being born in Sweden, a country where, if we're talking about alcohol, is heavily controlled and government controlled. You could only buy alcohol a few hours from Monday to Friday in government regulated stores. And it was age 20 you needed to be to get the ID card there. And alcohol was therefore quite restricted. There was no pubs or bars when I grew up in Sweden. It was just a couple of dance places where people who were a bit older went to. So therefore, alcohol seemed to me to be something mysterious, something that was for the selected few, something who was for the grown up. And I looked at that and I remember thinking, well, when someone is grown up, you get a driving license, you drive a car, and then eventually, wow, you can drink alcohol. But alcohol was there. The adults drank it at Christmas, they drank it at the parties and so on. So it was something that you just looked forward to. So that's my earliest memory of alcohol, Tim.
And then when did it become a problem?
It became a problem when I eventually started to use it, more than just a weekend. About 16 or 17 years of age, I started to drink on the weekends, but then at the age 18, it became more of also even during the Wednesdays, I know it started. And then when it really became a problem was when I was 23 years of age and moved to Australia. And in Australia, alcohol was available everywhere. It was, even when I played golf, you could buy it from the golf cart there. It was sunny, it was warm, it was socially acceptable to drink all the time. So I didn't realize that it became a problem. It just creeped in on me. And before I knew it, it was sort of just as normal as drinking a bottle of water. Beer was basically my drink. So that's how it started to become a problem, even though I didn't realize it at the time. When I then eventually moved to Asia in 2004, I remember my first incident in Thailand when I had a too big day of drinking, and the next day I had to go to hospital. And even at the time, I thought it was something else. I thought it was blood pressure or something. But looking back, I realized that was obviously alcohol.
Right. And then, so at the beginning, drinking was fun, right? Did it become not fun?
So still, even when I ended up in hospital one day, I got some medication eventually. I drank a few days later again and forgot all about it, but it was still fun at that time. But it started to be not fun, let's say, about a few years later than that. So we're going back around 2014, 2015. It started to have those moments when it wasn't fun. It was came with a lot of anxiety. It came with all those downsides. And then in 2015, as I resigned from a job and filed for a divorce and hit my 40 years crisis, let's put it that way, that's when it started to become no fun. And I had 3 years of those until 2018.
And so how long when you realized that drinking was a problem until you actually quit? How long was that journey? Or how many?
It was about 2 years.
2 years? How many times did you try to quit?
I tried to quit only a handful of times. I think I just put it forward. And when I eventually tried to quit, it was only a handful of times. And I remember those times vividly.
Can you share with us the moment you decided to pursue sobriety?
I remember it was in 2018, and I had tried a few times, and then I was going to have my birthday on the 1st of May. And I had a girlfriend who today is my wife, my second wife, remarried. And I remember telling her clearly that I would stop. I told her the plan and so on and prepared for it. And I can remember that day around lunchtime, I just couldn't do it. I was too shaking too much. I was too sick and I couldn't even move. I remember being in bed and I asked her to go out and buy me a 6-pack of beer because I just couldn't. And she felt sorry for me. She didn't argue with me. She did that. But I also remember that I told her that let's do that today and let's have a new plan after that is sorted. And we went and got the beer and I calmed down a little bit. And then we decided and agreed to go to the hospital later on that day, which we did. And then from there on, I haven't had a drink though.
So you went to the hospital. Was it detox?
Yeah, and I remember being terrified of that they would lock me in and so on and inpatient me, which I refused to do. But they agreed to give me some medication. They gave me some injection, the B vitamin injection and so on. And with that, I went back to the room and was basically supervised by my girlfriend. And then from there on, I managed to sober up.
So after that, did you do anything? Did you go to treatment? Did you go to rehab? Did you do what was your sobriety journey like?
Yeah, I didn't have the financial means at that time to go to rehab. And I remember that because the damage alcohol had done there to my life and financials and relationships, I just didn't have that. And I was terrified of being locked in. So that was the fear I had. So therefore, I did everything to avoid it. But it was AA. So after that, I went into AA and I joined at least one AA meeting a day for 6 times a month for 2-3 years. And that was really my path to sobriety, to maintain it.
For me, AA was my foundation. In my first couple of years, I went to 1 or 2 meetings a day for my first 2 years. And that was what I needed. That was the best thing for me. And so your first couple years was AA. And then so what's your actual sobriety date?
5th of May, 2018.
2018. Okay, what's that? 6 or
coming up to 7 years here in May.
So you're almost 7 years of sobriety. And then you've written a couple of books. You've done Ironman a couple of times. So let's talk about your book, Executive Loneliness. How do you relate your personal experiences with the broader challenges faced by professionals today?
So as I came in to my recovery team and about a year in, something happened then that changed my life and was the beginning of me writing the book. I lost a friend in Singapore to suicide, and that really shocked me. And I realized that I saw myself a lot in his journey, and I realized that if I didn't get the help, if I didn't get that medical detox, if I didn't get the AA community, it could have been me. But then I realized also that in his case, he was not as fortunate as me to be an alcoholic, which meant that I found the rooms to get support. But he was just lonely, isolated, and so on. So where could he go? There's no Loneliness Anonymous, for example. And that I became very, very apparent to me that there was nothing for those who just were lonely. As I started to then interview executives and I did a survey of executives, I found that about 33% of the senior executives in Singapore were feeling lonely and isolated. They didn't have a place to discuss their challenges like we had found in our safe space in AA then. So that was really the beginning of writing this book.
So who's your audience for executive loneliness?
Well, it was written first for executives in the workplace, and it started by looking at the senior executives, but then the executives. These days I broaden it so it also includes everyone, anyone who's going to work, and it doesn't matter at what seniority you are in the workplace. It can be isolation feelings anywhere, and the book is there and a model for everyone to take care of themselves.
And does your TEDx talk, is it based upon your book?
It is based on part of it, which is about sleep, which is getting healthy. Chapter 3 is about getting healthy, and sleep is a big part of that. And as I'm sure you would agree, Tim, sobriety is beautiful for sleep. So I doubled down on that and really taking that to the next level. So my TEDx is about sleep habits.
Can you give me a quick rundown of your TEDx talk? I'm all about sleep. I have my Oura ring. I look at my deep sleep. I look at my REM sleep. I actually have one of those Sleep 8 mattress cooler now, and I'm really into sleep. And so tell me about it. I want to hear it.
So I really enjoyed my journey leading up to my TEDx. I call it the sleeping experiment, where I basically read all the major books, the articles, the journals I could find on sleep. I was talking to sleep experts and really digging into it. And the first thing I did was to create a short list of 100 sleeping tips that I had tested everything. I tested everything. And a couple of those that really were the ones that stood out, that made the biggest impact for me, was the one that perhaps you need to seek medical advice first. If you should do, was to tape the mouth, which that really had the biggest impact on me, on my sleep, on my well-being, but also really transformed me as an athlete, because I just had so much deeper sleep, so I recovered better. And so that was the one that stood out the most when it came to those external tips. Otherwise, it was the discipline around it, because the fact that I did this sleep experiment and I was measuring everything, I sent it to a data expert who also worked with professional athletes to analyze all my data. And I did 2 races, 2 70.3 Ironman races, when I tested different sleep tactics, so we could really measure what worked. And my conclusion was that if you're disciplined about it and you sleep more, then you're going to perform better in a race. So I slept leading up to one Ironman race, I slept 1 hour extra compared to the other one, and the result spoke for itself. And I hit my all-time best. I done about 70.3, and this one, when I slept 1 hour extra, I hit sub 5 hours for the first time in my life, which I couldn't believe. So it's rather, so the conclusion here, rather than overtrain, oversleep before a race, and you will hit all your records.
So what's an hour longer for you?
So an hour longer was from 6.5 to 7.5 hours for me.
Okay. And you taped your mouth the whole time?
Yes, that month. Yeah, I did that month. Yeah, I taped my mouth every night.
Okay. I've done, my mouth. I used to do it a lot, but I haven't done it in a few years, and maybe I should go back to taping my mouth, because I'd like to see the difference, taping mouth versus not taping my mouth. I want to see my sleep score, HRV. I mean, like, do you see the difference in the data? Do you use an Oura ring or some sort of a sleep tracker?
Yeah, I did, yes. I used this kind of equipment, and I had someone who's better in analyzing data than me, to looking at it and really looking at the different patterns and looking at my trainings also and seeing what it could be and so on. So yes, it really impacted everything, yeah. And
What sleep use?
I used the Garmin from the 7 Phoenix.
Okay, and that works sufficiently?
Yes, but I'm sure I can double down maybe for my next TEDx with some more equipment there as well.
Right. Or ring, and I like that. I mean, they say the ring is the best sleep tracker on the market, but I think the Whoop is comparable. So I'm not really sure about the Garmin. Okay, and then you're sleeping with your mouth taped shut, and how do you like how you get less sleep? Can you tell in your is it more in the data?
Yeah, I can tell, and I think there's one main thing: the nights when I don't have enough sleep is to quickly actually then move on with the day. I think the biggest problem if we start to creep in some self pity and we're complaining about it and so on, that is the major issue. Actually, just get on with the day, and then eventually you will sleep next night. So I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
been the biggest change.
Right. Okay. Have you found most effective in maintaining long-term sobriety and mental health?
Yeah, so for the long term sobriety, it's definitely the community, being plugged in a community where you can really, be will understand you and keep giving back and helping newcomers. That's been what's really cemented me, should we say, in sobriety.
Yeah. Are you still connected to AA?
I am, yes, Tim, and I'm also running a men's group now, where not everyone alcohol issue, but it could be that they suffer from loneliness or other items. So we are running basically an AA, but with alcohol, just for men in general, and that really helps us as well.
Yeah, I've with several different men's groups, and early on, it used to be more like pretty much all sobriety and more AA based. Today, I've been part of many men's groups, and some people are in recovery, some people are not in recovery. But I mean, you're right. Just because I'm different and I've changed, I attract different people, and there are different groups, and it's been a huge compliment to my recovery. I think it's helpful to be involved in groups that are not just sobriety, and it's more about being authentic. It's more about digging deep. It's about um, like really development, I would call it.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And as it happened, Tim, when we have had those men's meetings, conversations, while there's been some men in there who would never have acknowledged that they might have an alcohol problem, as it happened because we cover those topics and we are authentic, quite a few of them have realized through that journey, oh dear, I have an alcohol problem too. And they have actually joined AA and sorted it out, and they're now in sobriety. So it's like a farming group in itself as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So, with your extensive experience on international platforms, how do you tailor your message about sobriety for diverse audiences?
Yeah, I think the most important for me with sobriety is that just sharing how it really helped transform my life. I had my life when I was really getting it together, but it was always alcohol that destroyed it in various forms. Now though, I get the consistency. Just by being healthier, being calmer, being more authentic, being the real me, doing the things I love, doing the races. I did the sport before sobriety as well, but I didn't excel in the way I do now. Everything is just different.
So, you were doing Ironman before you got sober?
I did, yeah. I was struggling to do it before.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, how have you been doing Ironman races? To get a free copy of the 12-step guide that I created for you, click on the link in the description below.
The first half was in May 2014, I remember, and the first full was in August 2014. And then, so I was, 1 year start to really have trouble with alcohol. I remember doing a full in 2015 when I had been drinking too much leading up to it. And I remember cramping in the swim, feeling awful. I remember very sick on the run and so on. And I just remember that it was an awful experience. I finished it, but it was really painful. And it took a few hours extra than what it does when you're healthy and sober.
I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine doing any sort of a race when I was hungover or drinking. I mean, I didn't really like my racing and all the health and wellness and fitness and all the stuff I do today didn't start until I got sober, and I got sober in 2011. And now it's kind of like it's my life. I couldn't imagine doing that. So how changed from pre sobriety to how it is now? Because you were doing events, you were racing, you were maybe you were fit, I would imagine, if you were still racing. So what's changed? What's the difference pre
The
pre sobriety to today?
Yeah, it's really just the vulnerability, the thinking that no matter what challenge or no matter what it is I'm taking on, that I'm not alone, that I can ask for help. So just like I got help with sobriety and I didn't figure that out myself, there was a lot of people, doctors, but also in the rooms, other people who mentored me. I did the same with Ironman sport. I figured, well, if it worked for alcohol, what could getting a mentor, getting in the right group, the right tribe when it comes to triathlon do for me. So I doubled down on that. And actually, one place where I do spend quite some time and is Phuket, Thailand. I belong to a triathlon club there, and one of my coaches is 𝐒𝐤𝐧'𝐭. He was 8 times top 10 in Kona, and he normally with professional athletes, but he took me on. So he's been coaching me for a few years, and I belong to his group where some of the pros and some of the best athletes in the world train. So I spent a lot of time, just mirroring from them, and that has made all the difference. And if it was me in the past, I would try to figure it out myself rather than just surrender and just ask for help. And it works for everything in life, and triathlon is just one part of it.
Right, right, right. What are the other things that you do besides Iron? So, I mean, Ironman, are you still doing stuff?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is that your main am?
Yes, and as you know, Tim, it's some time, right? So if you run, you don't have much more time for any sport, right?
Well, it's not just swim, bike, and run. It's swim, bike, run, sleep, nutrition, body work, massage. Like it's like there's so much to it. It's not just run, bike, swim. I mean, it's like a job. I mean, literally, it's like a job. I don't even. I mean, when I was Ironman, like I said, I only did it for 3 years, and I couldn't imagine somebody that didn't have like there are some people have normal jobs, normal like 9 to 5 jobs. I don't know how they do it. I mean, they're 10 o'clock at night. They're waking up at you know 2 o'clock in the morning to train because they have a normal job. And yeah, that was what I got out of it. And a lot of people would say to me, "How do you have the time?" And I don't know about you, but I got my ideas and my best thinking happened when I was on those long bike rides and on those long runs and on those long swims. Is
Yeah,
that
Tim.
true for you as well?
Yeah, we're fully aligned there. And I also had the discipline in really cutting out those hours for me. And what I had to do was be extremely brutal and be firm on myself. I stopped watching any form of TV news, and I haven't watched it since that for many years now. And no social media, just loose scrolling and all these kind of things. I just cut out all those and communicated clearly with people around me, and I just threw myself in it. And just like you, I also saw myself having the best ideas when I did a training. So I see myself as the manager, the administrator of my business when I'm in front of the computer. I see myself as the CEO and the strategist when I'm out training. So that's how I justify it. And indeed, it's the best ideas that come there. And we need that space. We need that. So I blocked 3 hours in my calendar for the rest of my life, and I call it white space time. And anyone who's managing my calendar, including my wife, colleagues, they know not to argue and touch that one, because then I'm not going to give that up. And that's why I'm up early here now talking to you, and I will have a training
Right.
session after this, Tim.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the it's emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical health. It's all of the things, and self care. I remember my I dated. I remember she used to give me shit. She's like, "Oh wow, big self care day today, huh?" And I'm like, I mean, come on. It's like, and I too. I don't know if the right word, but I'm all about self care and doing the things that I need to do to take care of myself, because that's how I am the best me, and that's how I'm able to show up. And
Yeah,
it sounds like you agree.
absolutely. And Tim, what happens then with that? We are forced to find ways. We are forced to maybe hire someone to support us. We're forced to delegate. We're forced to become more efficient and find ways. And today, with AI and automation and so on, there's no excuse. There's not sit down and analyze how can I free up an hour or two a day.
Right, right. Absolutely, I agree. Can you discuss the role of physical fitness in your recovery journey? And I guess particularly an Ironman athlete. And I know you've kind of already answered that. Uh, answer that question.
So physical health is a huge one for me, Tim. And like I had an experiment where I used physical health and sleep, I also have in my family high cholesterol typically. So that's something that I grew up with, and with the result of, most of them on my father's side having heart attacks and so on. And that's a bit of a fear that I lived with for many years. And I also played with medication versus exercise, keep my cholesterol in check, and by taking blood test every month. And what I found was that I have two paths. I can go on statins to have it under control, or I can exercise every day. So it really comes down to choice. Do I prefer to go on medication? And with statins I cannot almost run because I'm cramping and all sort of things, so I can just become slave for the rest of my life to those medications, so I can exercise every day. So I just chose an exercise, and that's really my main driver behind all of this. And then that was the foundation for this. Of course, it's this wonderful life that we explained about, which is, where everything is possible. And physical exercise then is today my tribe. I do a lot of it in groups and so on, and it's my social life. It's really everything. I find myself as an athlete, Tim.
Right. I would agree with that. It seems like an easy decision to me. Statins or exercise every day. It's like, that is a question. I mean, that's
Exactly.
For people, it might be actually. Can you? So, what would you say to someone struggling with isolation and anxiety, which are often magnified during recovery?
Yeah, I think the most important here is to try to find a tribe where you can be yourself, a group where you can be yourself. And I know that's hard. I was, spending too in my feelings and thoughts, being isolated to the point where I even got a psychosomatic illness. So my left foot was swollen like an elephant foot, and it was later diagnosed by the psychologist. That's because I spent 2-3 years in silence with all my pain. I didn't express it, so then the body find its own way to express it, and that really freaked me out. And as soon as I started to open up, as soon as I got the help, as soon as I started to speak up, then the swollen foot disappeared without medication. So that is the damage we do to ourselves if we walk around with some pain internally. So the most important for everyone, and doesn't matter if we have a drinking problem, whatever challenges we have, because if we are humans, we ought to have some challenges in life, and the most important is to find someone to talk to. And this can be anything from the kind of safe spaces we discussed today, or it can be a coach or a mentor or a friend, someone. And we cannot, I believe, only rely on our husband or wife, because maybe we offload too much in their lap, and we need to have some safe space externally as well, is my firm belief.
Right, I agree. And in my, like, I know they have to have male friends, and I believe that my significant other, have a significant other, I believe she has to have female friends. It's like we need our friends that we can go and talk to and connect with and go deep with, because without that, you're not really processing and working through the things you need to work through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm giving up to CEOs on Friday in Singapore, and I will talk about safe spaces, personally and professionally safe spaces. So I will lay out what we discussed so far is mainly the personal safe spaces. I will also lay out professional safe spaces. And of course, there comes coaches in, but also mastermind groups, peer groups, and really, to double find where can I speak with like-minded and going through similar challenges, where I can really get support and support them as well, and giving back, so that I feel that, if I have a major issue and challenge, then there's someone there who I can talk to. So that is the space I'm in now.
Right. Okay. So how has your approach to managing mental health evolved from your early days of recovery to now?
And that's a huge evolvement, Tim, and I think it has grown all the time, because once you start to master one, then you move on to the next one. So while sleep was my focus last year around the TEDx, now this year it's more about also looking at balancing out life. I did 6 races last year, 5 half Ironman, 1 full, around all the races, and this year it's taking it a bit easier. I'm registered for 2 half and 1 full, and I plan to just do that. So it's about also doubling down on other parts of my life. I'm playing with a lot of nutrition these days. I try to go complete vegan for a month and measure also the results, the training, the recovery, and so on, and see what impact that has on my life.
Are you vegan right now?
Not right today, but when I've tried it, it has had wonderful effects on my life and on the recovery and on the sleep as well.
Really? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I like all protein, protein that is right now. I'm kind of that deal, which
Yeah,
is
it's fun to test the different
yeah. So in your talks, you often discuss the impact of leadership roles on personal well-being. Could you share how leaders can balance their professional responsibilities with personal health?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's what we discussed today, that we deserve self-care. We deserve to look after ourselves. It seems like it's this kind of macho style mentality in the world, especially where it is about working long hours, showing and demonstrating that we're working long hours. And that has to stop, because it's just so detrimental to health and to the work culture itself. We need to embrace what we're discussing today, the white space time, so that we look at ourselves and take care of ourselves. And I think that's a huge shift that need to happen across the world, actually, and especially in the corporate world, and especially in the big MNCs and the big fours and so on, and the big consulting companies, where that's definitely not part of it. Many people I still face who are high achievers in that they just look at me and think I'm completely crazy. How do you
Right,
find the time to do that? And that exactly that has to change, Tim.
right, right, right. Agreed. Leveraged a large following on platforms like LinkedIn. I think you have 34,000 followers. What role has social media played in your journey and spreading awareness about mental health and recovery?
It has had a huge impact, Tim, and that's why I now run, peer groups, men's group. Like you, also sober coaching. I connected with so many wonderful communities all around the world, and I keep open eyes and to what they are doing. Today we are connecting, and I'm sure this is the beginning of a journey, also, Tim, where we can add value to each other. So I think social media play that really, really good role, opening doors. But I believe once we have opened the door, it's about doubling down on it and really making the most of it. And I just came back from Dubai, where I was over to give it on the topic we're discussing today in a fintech conference, where all it last week was about AI and fintech in the future. I also came in and I gave a keynote to remember everyone to be authentic and be human in this digital world. And that message need to be out there as well.
Right, right. Okay. Reflecting on your achievements, what has been the most unexpected lesson you've learned about yourself through your recovery and through public speaking?
Yeah, I think the fact that there's always that opens up in this world. If you surround yourself with the right people, then it's about to predict what will come, but just let it come to you. And even with the TEDx, I did not set the topic of sleep. It just happened that they, especially this university in Indonesia, wanted to have a TEDx in their sleep because the students were really struggling with sleeping, and therefore they looked me up. So just do what your passion is, and communicate that clearly, and then I believe the universe will send the right people to you.
Right, right, right. Is there missed or anything else that you want to talk about, or any other questions I should have asked you?
I think one thing is, any listener who perhaps have something on the mind as they've been listening to us today, if there's some pain there, something that if you go to bed and you feel that there's something on your mind, and maybe you wake up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. and it's there still, then I would just encourage everyone to write that down and then think about who can I talk to about this, because that's all it takes, really. Just find someone who we can trust to have a conversation with, and that can be everything from a doctor, a nurse, or it can be a coach, or it can be a mentor or a friend, but we need to talk to someone. The most important is, don't walk around with some pain point. If it goes hours, that's too long.
Gotcha. Do you have any suggestions for people that are trying to get sober?
Yeah, I would say talk to someone who's in the journey like you and me, Tim, and we will open doors for them and give them the right. I mean, it doesn't matter where they are. If it's someone who needs a rehab or support or help, or need a free recovery meeting or call, we will have the right resources. And the back of my book, Executive Loneliness, by the way, I have a few pages there with tools and free resources for anyone who want to explore that.
Okay, awesome. And how can people?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so they can look me up on LinkedIn, and it's Nick Johnson, NICKJOSSON. Otherwise, my book is on Amazon, and it's called Executive Loneliness. And for someone who is too busy to read, it's also on Audible.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. I think that pretty much comes to the end of our show. And Nick, I want to thank you so much for your time. Your journey and your insights are incredibly empowering. And thank you for your strategies and stories with us today, and helping our listeners see sobriety not just as a challenge, but as an opportunity to rebuild and renew their lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you also, Tim, and kick-ass sober life indeed.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, we'll see you on the next episode. If you got value from this video, if you heard what you needed to hear, be sure to like it. Comment if you've got a question or you have something to say. Subscribe to the channel. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, whatever it may be. So if you or a loved one is struggling and you need some guidance and you need some direction, reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, or you can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, whether it be detox and treatment, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services, whatever it may be. Like I said, we can either help you or make sure that you get sent in the right direction. We help people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. I'll see you on the next video.